So I'm in what Matthew Kelly would call a decision point. When
Are you?
you have no idea what I'm about to say.
No,
When it
I didn't
comes-
know you had a big decision to
I
make.
do. Look at my hair. I can
What
just
is-
let it keep growing.
Okay.
You
What
don't
do-
like that idea.
growing where? What do you mean?
My up?
Like
out?
let it just flow?
Yeah, no, like I can get more curls and just
You have a lot of curls.
yeah. Do I just keep going?
Or do you cut it? Okay, so we're
That's the
decide-
decision
that's-
point. Welcome back to episode 190 of To Become Family. We're your hosts, Renzo and Monica Ortega, and we are going to be recording very quickly in the next 20 to 30 minutes because the studio is very hot, and you're going to be able to tell if you're on video how I am just going to get shinier and shinier and shinier as we go because I am sweating. Actually,
I think we need to stop. You are sweating.
I'm sweating so much.
Okay.
Not because I'm nervous. So I'm going to be like Shaq now in between the quarters of time.
No. That's it.
Wipe my face.
While I'm talking.
So we've been talking in the last 3 weeks. This is our third conversation about the meeting the Vatican had about marriage and how to minister to married people. And last week we talked about a lot of things last week, particularly around the idea of words and pictures. And like when we say marriage and when we say different things, people have different pictures of what those things mean.
So last week we started by talking about Gen Z, and then we came with John Deloney's words and pictures because what Gen Z pictures when they think of marriage is different than what a lot of church leaders, religious ed directors, marriage prep ministers might think they think about, or they're picturing different things even though they're saying the same words. And the conversation was mostly about how to help Gen Z young adult couples, want to get married in the church and presenting it in a truthful and accurate way. But I think words and pictures is helpful for anybody because if you and your spouse are disagreeing on things or you're a part of ministry in any capacity and you're saying things, but you guys are not creating or moving in the same direction, it's probably because you're picturing different things when you're saying the same words.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about the other things that we could be picturing, not related to Gen Z. So this could be something that any spouse or any marriage, regardless of age, could be picturing. So in particular, we're titling this episode something along the lines. You don't go around.
You don't go around
You walk
lines.
along.
There's no way around a line.
Along the lines of your spouse is not supposed to be your savior. Because back to this idea of words and pictures, I think when we think of marriage, regardless of what generation we're coming from, we do think of it as something that's supposed to help us towards the happily ever after we've heard of in every single fairy tale, movie, book, whatever.
But even just like other movies and books and TV shows, there's this idea that when you find the one, they save you from yourself. They save you from the destruction you've been a part of. They save you from what have you. And that's a big clue that they're the one. And that can be not a good picture if that's what you picture when you think of a future husband or a future wife, or even current, like thinking that your spouse is meant to save you.
Right, and I think a lot of us have been influenced, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, how much we're influenced by the stories we listened to growing up. And I think it's important if you're a parent to make sure you're controlling the stories that your kids are intellectually ingesting, because they're forming a worldview that you have very little say in. As your child is navigating the world, they need boxes to put different things in. And either you're going to give them the boxes or the world's going to give them the boxes, and the stories that they are reading and interacting with are giving them different boxes for different things. And if you look at your own life, and particularly in relationship to relationships and marriage, the boxes that we have were built by those stories.
It's funny that you say that because I was thinking of what influenced us as kids. But
Boy Meets World.
And I actually just saw a clip. I don't know, a YouTube or a reel or something. I don't know. I watched something on social media about somebody dissecting a scene from Boy Meets World.
How unhealthy it was?
Well, that...
Okay.
Actually, this one was a healthy one. Yeah. Corey Matthews is actually toxic. And I'm like, well, he was also 19. But okay, so it was a scene where Alan Matthews was talking to Corey, because Corey's talking about how awful it is now that they're married and everything's falling apart in the only apartment that they can afford because they have no money and they're like drinking dirty water. And I can remember it like they turned on
he wouldn't co-sign the loan with him.
Right. They turned on the faucet and dirty water comes out, and he was angry at his dad because his parents, wouldn't co-sign a loan so that they could get a house. They have to live. And Amy Matthews is like sitting on the stairs and she's having a really hard time because that's her baby. But then Alan is like, this is what you signed up for. This is what you asked for. Now it's your job to go take care of your wife. And he's like, get out of my house and go home to her. And it was like but this picture that Corey Matthew has of marrying his, lifelong sweetheart. And then even for us, that was a thing that we gripped onto because we were high school sweethearts that were like Corey and Topanga, and this idea that like you endured so much as like young kids and you know each other so perfectly. And then marriage was actually really hard for them at first. And they disagreed a lot. They fought a lot. Things got worse before they got better. And so it's funny that you say that because I was thinking that really heavily influenced me as a kid. So you think of, like what during that like formative preteen teen years, like what media, what stories, what influenced your picture of marriage?
Yeah, no, I remember holding on to so much of Boy Meets World now that you talk about it, because they, throughout the entirety of the show, outside of the first season, their love is what kept, because they believed in the relationship, they believed in their love. Like they were able to overcome so many things, and like no matter what, they were always going to come back to each other.
Curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to shave my head. Oh, but so like there was a lot of that built into how I, like truthfully, how I saw our relationship of like, no matter what, we are going to love each other and we're going to make it through this. And so for good and for bad, because that is also why going into marriage, I assumed everything was going to be easy. I know the part you're talking about of like the show did show how like they struggled in marriage, but they also, within the 28 minutes or 26 minutes after commercials. Remember what commercials were? They were before ads. They would resolve the issues very quickly. Mm-hmm. Going into marriage, and then suddenly our issues were not resolved within the 28 minute mark. We were still fighting the next day. Fighting
about the same thing more than once.
Yeah, and I didn't have the box for that. Right? Yeah. I didn't have the box to be able to continue navigating and thinking. It made me consider, and it made us consider at some point, like maybe our love isn't enough. Like maybe we made a mistake because we were so young. Like there's a lot of questioning that happens, and I think the pictures that a lot of us can have, if we don't recognize that our picture is different than what marriage actually is, we are going to be resentful and very disappointed in what marriage feels like. And I think the job of marriage is actually supposed to be to tear down whatever preconceived pictures we have of it, mm-hmm. so it could build up something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this idea, you were talking about savior, but I do think that one picture that people can have is that the like happily ever after, that my spouse is supposed to make me happy. And when I'm with them, I'm happier than when I'm with other people. And I think marriage, the actual lived experience of marriage can strip you of that. And that sounds horrible.
Why would I be miserable with this
Why
person?
Did I sign up for this? But I do think that's part of the purpose of marriage, is to strip down these false ideas and really ground you in reality of your spouse is one of your favorite people, the best people in your life, but their job is not to bend, or their job is not to set the stage, set up all the circumstances so that you are always happy. And I think that reveals parts of you, or it invites you to reveal parts of you that are setting up bad expectations, or a little selfish, because you're supposed to do what I want. You're mm-hmm. supposed to give me what I want, what I need all the time, so that I am comfortable and happy. And it kind of reveals these things to you, that you might be a little bit more demanding. You might be a little bit more difficult to please, but also that that's not the way your life is supposed to be all the time. Mm-hmm. And also to rely on somebody else to do that for you is unfair.
Right. And I think there's a balance there, because I do think there's another picture that people have with marriages and with their spouse, where they feel like my spouse is supposed to do none of these things, and my spouse is just meant to be a companion along this miserable path that we're on, mm-hmm. because we're doing our duty to be married, and we're doing our duty to do these things, and we're doing our duty to have all these children, even though we know it's going to be miserable. And I do think there's a balance between that.
Yeah.
And I think the balance only comes in though when you recognize that marriage isn't supposed to be for your happiness. Way that we've pictured happiness through your own box, whether it be Boy Meets World or something else, like that's not the happiness that you're being offered through marriage. But your spouse, so your spouse is supposed to be, I like to think of it as the picture being your spouse is supposed to now be your companion on so corny, a life journey where they can be all the things you need them to be, but as you are progressing forward and becoming something new. Does that make sense? No, you don't like that.
It sounds a little flowery to
Okay,
me.
well, it makes more sense in the Substack that I wrote. So, because in the Substack that's accompanying this episode, the idea is that it's supposed to be that Jesus is tearing down whatever picture of marriage you have, because whatever you have is going to fall short of what it actually is. So he's going to tear everything down. And your journey with your spouse is supposed to be to Jesus, to heaven, to whatever he wants of you. And you're accompanying each other throughout that. And in that accompanying, there is going to be romance. There's going to be fun. There's going to be all the things you've always wanted in your relationship. However, those things are always going to be secondary to the main purpose of this journey, which is to reach Jesus, to go to heaven. So sometimes to get there, you're going to have to go through suffering. You're going to have to go through perfection, and you're gonna have to be purged of all the things that you that don't actually allow you to live a life that Jesus can be invited into. But that doesn't mean that your spouse can't be fun along the way, right? I thought of the did you ever watch Lord of the Rings?
No.
Why are we married? Okay, so never read or watched Lord of the Rings. So
I just finished
you did
reading the trilogy of Red Rising.
Yes, the first three. Okay.
So,
this is good. Well, we can use we can't use Red Rising because no spoilers. You should read Red Rising.
That's rude, though, to say why are we married.
No, I'm kidding.
That was offensive. I'm trying.
I have to wipe my face. As I wipe my face, sweating too much. Why are we married? Why did you marry me?
Active.
So, in it, there is a hobbit named Frodo, and then there's another hobbit who's accompanying him named Sam. Do you remember these characters?
Yes.
Do you have an idea of who this is?
Yes.
Okay. So
I don't live under a rock.
I don't know how much you know. So this is another box of mine. So
if you don't know all of it, you must know nothing.
That is the black and white that I see the world through. So with Frodo and Sam, Frodo is going to try to destroy the ring, and Frodo's accompanying him to go destroy the ring. And I think of that, oh my goodness, this thing has so much cat hair on it. So they're on their journey to go do this thing, and they're together as they go through the journey. So regardless of what the journey has in store for them, like it could be hard, it could be easy. There's difficult times. I'm not going to give any spoilers for you. But
the only person who's never watched Lord of the Rings. Also, no other movie on the face of the earth has ever had high points and difficult points in the journey from beginning to end.
So
with two characters going together.
Point being that
this is groundbreaking for me. Okay, we're going to stop recording. I have to go watch Lord of the Rings.
The point is more for them, to the people who've watched, listened, read. The point being that the purpose of the journey is always to destroy the ring, but the other things that they're going throughout the journey is for them to.
Yes.
But the journey is still, the point of the journey is still the ring.
Yes.
So for marriage, it's the same thing. Like, you have to heal through things. I have to heal through things. Clearly, you have to heal from this insult that I just gave you. Like, there's things that we need to go through. But at the end of the day, our journey is always to reach Jesus and to reach heaven. And I think when we keep that in mind, that we have now made a vow to then walk side by side to Jesus. It changes the context of what marriage is. And it changes the context of like how I'm supposed to function towards you and you're supposed to function towards me. I'm not supposed to take away all your suffering and comfort all your things, because that's not the point of this journey, right? I'm not the savior of this. Like, Jesus is the savior, and I'm supposed to journey with you to him, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think before you went on your little
it might not even make it into the full episode, so
better. I want evidence of this. I think your point, though, too, of this idea of companionship, and that you're not supposed to just coexist together either. That, like, have this roommate now that we do life together. We split the chores, we split the childcare, and we eat dinner together and end up in the same bed at night. Like, there's supposed to be more to that. There's certainly supposed to be happiness and fun. And I think that the cat is distracting me. This is going really well, guys. I think that you're right. There's absolutely something in the middle of this pendulum. There's some sort of perfection here in the middle of, we are not just coexisting and living life together next to each other. And there's also this, they're not supposed to solve everything and be your savior. And they're not the answer to all the things. But the answer to all the things is to be beyond companions, to not just walk side by side, but to walk like united as one. So I think that I haven't seen the movie, but the analogy falls slightly short, though, because they are still two buddies, two companions. They're two
Fair.
friends, like walking together side by side. They're suffering together. And those are all really great things. But the distinction, though, between that and your best friend, who could be your spouse, beyond the person that you chose to live life together, is the difference maker here between what we're our version, the Catholic version of marriage, versus the outside world's picture of lifelong soul companion marriage. You know, the person that I pick, because that is good, but the difference maker is the transformation, the power of this journey together towards Jesus, towards heaven, towards the Savior, towards the answer, is that because we are doing that together within the sacrament, that he infuses that these sufferings, these things that we go through together that are hard, and it could be our spouse that is making us suffer sometimes, is transformative. And these experiences of high passion and romance and fun and joy are also transformative. Like, they are not just an experience that like lives and like, that was a nice memory, but it is actually has changed you and made you holier through the sacrament, if we allow it. Like, if we take this different perspective on marriage, that we and maybe it's certainly not on the forefront of our mind all the time when we go through these things, that like, this is making me holier. But that is the invisible reality of marriage, though, too, that because we're deciding to enter this journey and move together as one, then the goal can be reached.
Right. And that means that when you get married and things feel like they're falling apart, and that you guys are no longer on the same page, or things are coming up that you never realized were there before, that doesn't mean that you're failing at marriage. That means that marriage is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Because if you're on a journey with someone and they're the only person you're with for so long, eventually things are going to come up that wouldn't have come up if everything was normal and safe. And I like the idea of, again, I know Frodo and Sam are not a perfect example, but there's a very big difference of how the journey would have been for the two of them if they were in the Shire, versus having to go out and go, and go along this whole journey. And the same thing for us, like, there's a safety in staying engaged and staying in this pre-marriage state, right? And then like, oh, dating is so exciting. There's this infatuation that you're with, that like, there's all these dreams that you have ahead. So even if you're just engaged and you're like, one day we're gonna get married and have all of this, there's a safety in the what if, and I can't wait when. Whereas like, when you finally are now married and going on this journey, there's no more what if, there's no more getting out. You've committed, you've left, like you've burned all the boats. Like, there's no getting out of here. There's no retreat. And because of that, more is going to come out. And the box in the picture that you have of marriage needs to conform to now what the reality is, and not you constantly looking back longingly. Have you ever seen the picture of Wolverine, the meme of Wolverine holding a picture, and it's like something silly, but like it's him like, oh, so sad thinking back of it. And I think a lot of us can be 5, 6, 7, 8 years into marriage looking back at like, this is what I thought it was going to be. It's not this anymore. Yeah.
There's certainly a risk to getting married, to like making the leap, right? And really deciding to do the thing. And I think that, your point with this dating and engaged portion of your relationship, it could, well, it's not yet. It's not here yet. We don't have to yet. And it's cool to look forward to, but it's not there yet. And when you get married, like, it's indissoluble. So that's it. This is the thing from now until it's not. And so there's a risk to it. And at the same time, there's a huge safety to that too, because this is it. It's not going anywhere. And so when the hard things come, and when you fail, when they fail, you get to be the steady. And like, you as the spouse get to be, it's an invitation again to be that safe spot in this experience of risk.
But I feel like the safety shouldn't, and this is where I would push back, and this is where I think we have to correct the pictures for a lot of people of the person being the steady is not that they are the steady within themselves, but they're steady in reminding. This is what, again, what happens with Frodo and Sam, of Frodo's fallen apart a lot of times, and it's Sam being like, we have a journey here that we have to keep going towards. Like, we have to keep moving towards this thing. That becoming the steady is not, because I think a lot of us think becoming the steady is that, well, I have it together, I have to be the calm one right now, which again can be true, but it's because you remember that the point of this journey is for our good, to reach heaven and get closer to Jesus.
So it's not, I guess it's not like that your spouse is the steady, but that your marriage is the steady. Like, that your marriage is it's not going anywhere. And it's this place where all of this suffering, all of this trial, all of these changes are like, they're meant to happen in this context so that you are strengthened to continue on to that journey towards heaven.
Yeah, I would say that at least in the analogy in my head, the marriage is the journey, so that because I don't think the marriage can be the study, because I think for a lot of people, like, there is an out. Like, I could just stop journeying. Like, I could just quit here. Like, I'm not going to keep going forward. And some people do, even though they stay married. They let one spouse keeps walking, and then was like, I'm not going to keep going because everything else seems so treacherous. I'd rather just sit here it's my diaper. I'm going to sit here. At least I know what this feels like. This is nice and warm, and I don't want to keep moving forward. And I think I do see that as a possibility for a lot of spouses, even if they're 20, 30 years into marriage. One spouse keeps growing in their faith. One spouse keeps staying close to the sacraments, just hoping, like, I can't wait for that. I pray for my spouse to be able to convert. I pray for them to be able to do this. And the other spouse is like, this is not what I signed up for. I signed up for happily ever after, and I've just gotten all of this other stuff instead. Sorry, this is something from the Substack, so hopefully pushing you to go read it. Marriage puts another person close enough to you that all the hidden stuff starts coming out. The impatience, the wounds, the selfishness, the family baggage, the way you avoid conflict, the way you use conflict to get control, and expectations you didn't even know you had until your spouse failed to meet them. That's when a lot of people panic and think something is wrong with my marriage, or they ask, why did God abandon us? But oftentimes what feels like marriage falling apart is actually the fantasy falling apart, with Jesus waiting to rebuild. And I think that is the correct picture of what marriage is that it's a journey that you could absolutely choose to not keep moving forward to or forward with, but like you're vowing to walk with your partner for the rest of your life. You're walk with your spouse for the rest of their lives. Or as long as you're still alive. And that's the correct picture that we should be going in, whether we're married or when we're engaged. And if we are married for many years, we should reconsider, like, is that the picture that I have, or have I created a different picture and I'm just constantly disappointed with what I have?
And I think that's the key, this idea of, like, Jesus has that power and that he can do those things despite not even despite, but like because of the circumstances that you're in. They could be things that happen to you, or you could have caused them, that he has that saving power, that he's the one that is guiding the journey, and he's the pull, and he can even write the path, even like while you're on the journey, in the midst of the journey. He's not, heaven is the place that we're working towards, that we're journeying towards, but he's also not an abandoned, like, leader of that journey. So he's not waiting for you to get there, but he's the map, he's the guide, he's the water, he's the food, he's like all the things that are going to get you there as well, to feel like I'm sitting in my diaper and I chose it. And he's like, I have all the answers to helping that. And so if you feel like this is where you found yourself in your marriage, and maybe you're the person who has been doing all the praying, and your spouse is the one that's sitting in their diaper, and you're like, okay, so then what do I do? Well, one, share this podcast episode with them. But I think to not be discouraged by your spouse being in that circumstance yet, because it's never over, and to encourage them to not just like live up to their potential in that, like, you could be better, just try this, this, and this, but like, our marriage can be great. Like, from the get-go, Jesus is rooting for your marriage, and he wants that to go well. He wants this journey to get to the end goal, and that's heaven. And so,
but that's why I think, in the last point, is that all marriage formation, so pre-Cana, any type of ongoing marriage enrichment, all of it needs to not just include Jesus, but every talk, everything that you do needs to be founded on Jesus. He needs to be mentioned all the time, because he is the only context that will write the picture that you have. Yeah. So if you're doing any type of marriage ministry or at all, or if you're a mentor couple and you think that just mentioning Jesus as like an ancillary thing at the end, or like, yeah, we also pray, and not infuse him into everything you do. So you could do conflict and communication, you can do budgeting, you could do everything and still have Jesus be part of it. Yeah. It will help right the ship for a lot of couples who are picturing something completely different and think if Jesus is just, like we said in the last episode, something is just giving us a stamp of approval. Jesus is here when things are really, really hard, without realizing, like, Jesus is the destination and he's the strength of the journey. Like, he's the whole reason we're doing this in the first place. Yeah.
I think that's so crucial. This is why we started this series in the first place, is because this idea of this flowery language, this abstract idea that, like, oh yeah, and Jesus is rooting for you, so make sure you also pray and make sure you also go to mass. That is that's why so many couples are suffering in their marriage in a particular way, because he was not included. He was not introduced in how he wants to be a part of all of the practical pieces, all of the everyday pieces. And so that's where that disconnect is happening. And we need to, every couple, like everyone who is around any other married couple, needs to articulate the integration of Jesus into their whole life. So if you are a couple who is trying to do this imperfectly, certainly this is how we are imperfectly doing this, but you need to identify that for other couples who don't know that Jesus is a part of our discernment of what sports our kids are involved in. Jesus is a part of how we choose to schedule our day. Jesus is a part of how we plan our finances. He is a part of how we pick what jobs we do and all of it. And when you can, show how and how he has influenced and how you've included him, how you've invited him into that. And I think that that's huge, because there are so many people that are having a hard time with how and where is he in these everyday Wednesday night things. Are just, I can't pick what to make for dinner tonight, and my kids are screaming, and my husband's not home from work yet, and like it feels like you're all alone, and you're not. And so I think that that's really important for us to be very clear on how he is integrated into everything.
Yeah. So that is the conversation. Like you said, like I mentioned, we are not just uploading these podcast episodes, but we're also writing accompanying Substack articles that I think go a little bit more in detail in terms of like any data, unpack the thoughts a little bit more in a different way, because I think you get very different things in writing than you do in the podcast. So subscribe to the Substack if you want to get those as well. And leave us 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. On Spotify, if you see us there, you could comment and then we can talk back to you. And follow us on...
Talk back.
Yes, talk back. Follow us on Instagram if you want to interact with Monica more and see if my hair keeps growing or not. It probably won't. And that is all for now. Thank you. Let us know if you missed anything. Leave us... Oh, and follow us on YouTube too. Subscribe on YouTube, comment there. It's slowly growing. Monica's the one that gets all the views if I do any shorts on YouTube. Nobody likes me. Like mine get like 14 views.
That's not true. Your last one just had a really weird cover photo.
I can't adjust that. Well, I could, but it's so much work. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you at the next episode.